Now some terminology. So, you almost never hear baud rate anymore, but I'm going to tell you what it is. Baud rate. The baud rate is the number of cycles per second. I'll just put sec, okay? So baud rate is number of cycles per second. I'm going to flip this over really quick. So I've been noting here, for example, this light is off for a certain amount of time. It's on for a certain amount of time, okay? Each time it changes, or that it could change, that's a cycle, all right? So let's say, for example, this is on for 1/1000th of a second. If the clock cycle is 1/1000th of a second, it is going to be 1,000 baud. Okay? So the clock cycle, again, that's how long that bit, or it stays in the state, is the clock cycle. So if it stays in the state for 1/1000th of a second before it changes, that means we can change states 1,000 times in a second. 1,000 baud. Right? Now if we translate this to bit rate, so my bit rate is going to be, oh, this is an equal sign. This is a nice little formula. The bit rate is going to be the baud rate times the number of cycles per second. Or no, it's not. Bits per clock cycle, sorry. Bit rate is the baud rate times the number of bits per cycle. Okay? So if I flip this back over, if I talk about my light being off for 1/1000th of a second and on for 1/1000th of a second, I'm transmitting 1 bit per cycle, which means my bit rate is 1,000 bits per second. Okay? My baud rate was 1,000 baud. I was doing 1 bit per cycle. That gives me 1,000 bits per second. So if we look down at this one, how many bits per cycle are we transmitting in this lower one? 2 bits per clock cycle, okay? So in this one, if we're doing 1,000 times 2, we get 2,000 bits per second, okay? And I shouldn't, by the way, have to tell you this is 2K bits per second. And when you see like 2M bits per second, that's 2 million bits per second. We're all over that stuff, and we'll see that as we go. Okay? So bit rate is baud rate times clock per cycle. So let's ask this.
Yeah, the book says that it should be. The book says that it should be noted to at least like 3 places, and
don't sweat too much about his rules of the
at
K's.
most 3 places.
Yes. According to Panko's rule, I would be scorned as a nerd. Since I wrote 2,000, you would never do that. It should be 2K bits per second. Okay? These are not hard and fast rules. It is the same. This is supposedly not cool. Not cool to write it out. This is cooler. But just, we need to be aware of what it is, okay? So yeah, he makes a big point of it in the book. He also makes a point that the K is supposed to be a lowercase k. You guys know that? And then mega, it's true. K is a little, mega is big, is capital, but another thing to not really sweat. All right. So we just did, so what if we want to do 3 bits per clock cycle? Hold on a second. I want 3 bits per cycle. How many states do I need for that? Okay? So I want you guys to notice this is a two-step procedure, or it can be. I can do multiple states on my line, which increases my bits per cycle, and then that increases my bit rate via the baud rate. Crazy. So if I have 8 states, that means I get 3 bits per cycle, and that's going to be at 1,000 baud, I'm going to get 3, and I'll put my K now, K bits per second. All right? So we're all over this. Come on. 3 bits per cycle, I need my 8 states. That's going to give me, again, 3,000 bits per second. Now, we don't have many formulas, and I could write 1,000 test questions for these, but there will be 3 or so. But it goes all the way. There's bits per cycle, baud rate, bit rate, and then going from the states too. And I'm just going to, hey, this is a fun little thing. This is like the history of modems. And you guys use a dial-up modem? So you guys know I'm really old. And I actually dealt with, the very oldest modem I ever dealt with was a 300 baud modem. And when you bought modems back then, it just said baud. Okay? So you bought a 300 baud modem. It literally was 300 baud. That gave you 300 bits per second. Okay? Later on, I mean, there were lots of modems. I'm old. So you might have had like a 2400 baud. Speaking of people not going by the rules, that's supposed to be 2.4K, but they don't follow Pinkel's rule, huh? This gave me I'll put 2.4 over here, 2.4K bits per second, okay? So the baud rate and the bit rate were equal. This is barely going to fit. At 9600 baud, that was the last time when you bought a modem that it was still a 9600 bits per second. I shouldn't have wrote 9.6K because no one says that, but anyway. Later, you just started seeing them over here. The next set was a 19200 bits per second. Oops. The next one was a 28800 bits per second. Sorry, I'm running out of speed here. And they stopped saying baud. And if we look at this carefully, we can kind of see what's really going on here. They didn't change the baud rate. It was still 9600 baud, but the bit rate doubled. Y'all are seeing that, right? 96 times 2 is 19.2. 96 times 3 is 28.8. So what's happened there is we're getting cycle. There's 1 bit per cycle here. There's still 1 here. But now we're upping the bits per cycle. We're doing 2 here, and then we did 3 here. Okay? So come on, that's fun. They upped that. And now you're going to go look it up, and you'll be like, that's not exactly what happened, and it's not, but don't call me on it. So. But that's kind of, it makes it sound nice. Okay, so that was fun. We'll note here, how many states do I need to get my 3? I need 8 states, okay? So remember all of these things, okay? 8 states, that's harder to keep track of in order to get that done, okay? You have to keep track of all the bits going on. So that's baud rate, bit rate,